Are you heading to Graceland in 2025? Buddy, if you do, it's like walking straight into a rock and roll fever dream. Where the living room's got stained glass peacocks, the basement has a porcelain monkey, and every square inch screams, Elvis was here. This ain't some dusty old mansion. It's sacred ground for anybody who has ever felt the spirit of rock and roll rattle through their ribcage. You step through that front door, and it's like the king just stepped out the back to hop on a horse. Every room hits you with the story of a dirt poor Tupelo boy that grew up to be an American icon. Folks still show up in droves, snapping pics out front, getting misty at the meditation garden, and leaving feeling like they just brushed up against a bolt of pure southern lightning. If you're making the pilgrimage to Graceland and you ain't staying at the guest house, you're only doing it halfway, man. This place wasn't built for folks looking to snap a selfie and grab a snow globe. It was made for people who understand what Elvis really was. Not a cartoon, not a costume, but a cultural earthquake in human form. The guest house sits just steps away from Graceland's front gate, but it's more than just a place to crash. It's a living extension of the myth. Opened in 2016, the whole thing was designed with Priscilla's input to make sure it didn't turn into an Elvis-themed Chuck E. Cheese. Instead, it feels like the kind of place the king himself might have holed up. Private, stylish, and just a little bit dangerous. There are over 450 rooms, but they don't all feel the same. The standard rooms are clean, sharp, and comfortable. Rich wood, deep blues, and design details that tip the hat to the man without turning the room into a museum. Want to sleep like royalty? The theme suites are where it's at. Vernon and Gladys's suite feel homey without getting hokey. The TCB suites, pure late-night Elvis magic. And the King suites, full-blown Vegas meets Palm Springs swagger. These are not for posers. These are for true believers only. When it comes to food, the guest house does not mess around. Delta's Kitchen serves southern food that's unapologetic. Deviled eggs to start off the meal. Fried chicken that'll bite you back. And bread pudding? So good it could end a family feud. It ain't cutesy, it's classy. And the food here is legitimate. Over at EP's Bar and Grill, the vibe shifts into low gear. It's a dark, moody bar with enough edge to feel like somebody might have recorded a rockabilly B-side in the corner booth. It's where you go to knock back a bourbon neat and imagine the sound of a Cadillac engine growling in the parking lot. And then there's the entertainment, because of course a place tied to Elvis couldn't just offer a bed and a biscuit. They built a 464-seat theater right into the hotel. It's a real deal performance space where live acts bring Memphis soul to life night after night. Out by the pool, you got a space that leans more toward Palm Springs than Party Hotel. Sleek, well kept, just removed enough from the chaos to let you breathe. The fitness center is open 24/7 if you get the itch to sweat out last night's bourbon. And if you're needing to get around, the shuttle service runs you straight to Graceland, Elvis Presley's Memphis Museum Complex, or even the airport. No hassle. You'll also find a gift shop, but not the hokey kind. It's curated, tasteful, the kind of place you buy a souvenir that actually makes it home instead of sitting in the floorboard of your car. If you're traveling with the furry sidekick, they even got pet-friendly rooms, because Elvis loved his dogs, and this place honors that too. End of the day, the guest house at Graceland ain't about rhinestones and nostalgia. It's about legacy. It's about stepping into a space that respects the myth while offering modern comfort with backbone. It's for the kind of people who still think Elvis was the baddest man to ever walk on stage. And if you're one of them, this is your headquarters during your visit to Memphis. $1 billion plus. That's the estimated number of Elvis records sold worldwide. 149. Elvis Presley had 149 total songs that charted on the Billboard Hot 100. 114 reached the top 40, most by any solo artist even till today. 40 of those songs hit the top 10. Elvis Presley had 18 number one hits in the United States of America. Heartbreak Hotel hit the number one position on Billboard's pop chart, country and western chart, and rhythm and blues chart. You didn't haul yourself all the way to Memphis just to not walk through the front doors of Graceland. Unless you did, in which case, bless your heart, I guess. But if you are fixing to see where the king lived, the Elvis Experience Tour is the way to go. It ain't just a walkthrough, it's a full-blown immersive journey through Elvis's life and his legacy. The first stop is the visitor center across the street from the mansion, where you'll get hit with a little intro film about Elvis's rise from Tupelo to TCB legend. Then they hand you an iPad, yep, high-tech stuff, with headphones so John Stamos can walk you through the house, room by room. You get some sweet commentary from Elvis and Lisa Marie herself, which somehow makes the whole thing feel like a family reunion. Once you're geared up, you hop on a shuttle that takes you through those famous music note gates and drops you off at the front door, like you're on some kind of holy rock and roll pilgrimage, which I guess you are. From there, that iPad becomes your best friend as it guides you through the house. What will you see inside the mansion? Well, I'll tell you, but first a little history lesson. So before Elvis turned it into a rock and roll mecca, Graceland was just a big old Memphis mansion built in 1939, named after some churchy sounding lady named Grace Tohoff. Then in 1957, a 22-year-old former truck driver turned rock and roll superstar rose up and buys the whole place in one go with cold hard cash. Now, it ain't just a house. It's a Presley family compound. Mama, daddy, grandma, girlfriends, the Memphis Mafia, heck, probably a cousin or two sleeping on the couch. From TV specials to Vegas gigs, no matter how big he got, Elvis always returned home to Graceland. Now back to the task at hand. You step inside and you hit the living room first. 14-foot couch, white carpet, and then wow, peacock stained glass doors. Flashy, classy, and loud as a gospel choir. One of my favorite Elvis stories happens right here in the living room. It's sometime in the early 1970s, well after midnight, which for Elvis might as well have been brunch. And who comes strutting up the Graceland driveway like he owns the place? James freaking Brown.
Wow, I feel good.
The godfather of soul. Now you just don't roll up to Graceland like it's a damn Waffle House. You gotta be invited. If you're sitting on that white couch in the living room, it means Elvis knows you're not gonna steal his TV remote or drop a chili dog on the carpet. So there they are, Elvis, draped in a cape like Liberace's wild cousin who moonlights as a superhero, and James Brown, dressed like Saturday night, got into a fist fight with Sunday morning. They're laughing in front of that big old picture window, talking shop, music, money, what it's like being too famous to buy toilet paper in peace. Then Elvis just floats on over to the piano, the white baby grand, you know the one, and starts playing gospel, soft and slow, like a prayer. James Brown doesn't say nothing at first, he just listens, and then he goes, "Man, this place feels like a church." Elvis looks over, probably gave that little sideways grin, and goes, "It is. It's my sanctuary."
He taught me how to walk and pray.
And that, right there, that makes this living room holy ground, y'all. Two men of faith sitting down together, swapping stories and spirituals. That's why Graceland's living room isn't a museum piece. It's sacred ground. Right down the hallway is one of the most down-home rooms in the entire mansion. Vernon and Gladys's bedroom. This room at Graceland is simple and sweet. No flash, just love. Elvis was a mama's boy, and he put his parents close. Gladys passed away a year after they moved in. And the room stayed just like she left it. Quiet, humble, and full of heart. Take a left and you hit the dining room, where Southern manners met Memphis glamour. Think fried chicken under a crystal chandelier. Then you come to the kitchen, plain by mansion standards. But this was the engine room of Graceland. Mary Jenkins Langston ran that kitchen like a Southern saint, keeping Elvis fed on meatloaf, mac and cheese, and midnight bacon. Now you head downstairs to the TV room, black and yellow with 3 TVs mounted like Elvis Presley is monitoring NORAD. Down here in the TV room, there's a white porcelain monkey chilling on the coffee table like it owns the joint. Nobody knows exactly where it came from, but it was likely picked up during one of Elvis's wild shopping sprees, or gifted by one of the Memphis Mafia boys. Now, Elvis loved monkeys, so this porcelain version might be a nod to him, or just another piece of weird, wonderful Elvis eccentricity. Most likely bought in the early 70s when he redid the whole room with lightning bolts and mirrored walls. It don't matter where it came from. What matters is that it's there, grinning like it knows a secret. And when folks tour Graceland, they always stop and say, "Hold up, is that a monkey?" Yep, and Elvis wouldn't have it any other way. Then you move on to the billiard room, looking like Liberace's hunting lodge, pleated fabric everywhere, and a big old rip in the felt of Elvis's pool table. And yep, it's still there. Story goes, one night in the 1970s, either Elvis or one of his Memphis Mafia buddies got a little too rowdy and chunked a cue ball across the room. It smacked the table and tore the felt right down the middle. Now, could Elvis have fixed it? Oh yeah, he could have fixed it, but he didn't, because Graceland wasn't some showroom. It was home. That tear was a memory, a battle scar from a night of laughing and hanging out with the king himself. And, like Graceland, it's still there to remind us that this isn't just a home of a celebrity, but of a real human being who laughed, loved, and lived within these walls. The story of the Jungle Room is probably everybody's favorite tale about Graceland. It goes a little bit like this. In the 1970s, Elvis Presley walked into an antique store in Memphis, saw a bunch of wild, cheeky stuff, and said, "I'll take all of it." That's how the Jungle Room was born. Green shag carpet, a waterfall, carved wood furniture, the whole vibe was straight up Hawaiian hunting lodge meets Southern man cave. It wasn't in style, not even close. That look had already come and gone, but Elvis did not care. He liked it, so he made it happen. Designed by Elvis himself, used as a hangout spot, cost probably around $10,000 to $15,000 back then. Just another room in Graceland turned into a legend by the king. By the mid-1970s, Elvis wasn't feeling the studio life anymore, so he just said, "Screw it, y'all come to me," and turned the Jungle Room into a damn recording booth. RCA hauled in the gear, ran cables through the windows, and the king laid down some of his final tracks right here between the green shag carpet and that waterfall. He recorded stuff like Moody Blue, Way Down, and Hurt, some of the last songs he'd ever sing. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. That weird little jungle cave ended up being the stage for one more round of magic before the curtain fell. Out back behind Graceland, you'll find a little brick building where Vernon Presley, Elvis' daddy, ran the money side of things. It ain't glamorous, just wood paneling, a desk, some ledgers, and probably an old glass ashtray still filled with the butts of Marlboro Reds. While Elvis was out being a rock star, Vernon was making sure the bills got paid and the Cadillacs didn't bounce. Next door is the old smokehouse. Left over from Graceland was a farm. Originally used to cure hams, But once Elvis moved in, it got repurposed in a true King fashion, turned into a firing range. Yep, Elvis used to blast targets back there like he was fixing to join the Memphis SWAT team. So yeah, behind the gold records and peacock glass, there was still a place to crunch numbers and pop off a few rounds, just how the King liked it. Next up is the Trophy Building. The Trophy Building started as a chill little rec room, but like everything else Elvis touched, it turned into a full-blown monument to the madness. By the 1970s, it was packed full with gold records and about every shiny thing that the King had ever laid hands on. Elvis would walk folks through like, here's my Grammy, here's my cop badge, here's the TV I shot. Part museum, part man cave, part memory lane. These days, it's where you'll find the real heart of Graceland, including family photos. It's Elvis's life story. You wrap up the tour of the buildings with the racquetball court, which Elvis had built in 1975, because by then he had hit that, if I want it, I'll build it in my backyard, stage of life. Didn't want to leave Graceland to hit a ball around, so he slapped up a custom court right next to the Trophy Building, complete with a lounge, a bar, and a piano, because even when sweating, the King stayed extra. He got into racquetball in the mid-70s when it was all the rage with rich folks and showbiz type, and he was both. And yeah, he played it like he played everything else, loud, wild, and flat out. He wasn't just tapping the ball around for cardio, he played to win. Probably didn't like losing, but if he did, he at least made sure it looked good. And here's the kicker, the night before he died, Elvis sat down at that piano in the racquetball lounge and sang Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, an Unchained Melody. So yeah, that court wasn't just for games. It was the last place Elvis ever made music. And finally, the Meditation Garden. That's where he rests, Elvis, beside his parents, his grandmother, his daughter, and his grandson. Quiet, still, and holy as a hymn. Don't go asking to see the upstairs. That part is off limits. It's where he lived, it's where he died, and where he still has shirts hanging in the closet. That was his space. And after giving the world everything else, it's the one thing they let him keep. So yeah, Graceland ain't just a house. It's a southern cathedral, a time capsule, and a love letter to a man who changed music forever. When you're ready to leave, they shuttle you back to the main complex, where the rest of the tour kicks into overdrive. Plan to spend at least 3 to 4 hours total, because once you fall down the rabbit hole, time doesn't mean much. The mansion alone takes about an hour, but the museum side will eat up the rest of your day in the best way possible. And if you're smart, book your time slot ahead of time, so you're not stuck behind a tour bus full of people. So yeah, go all in. It's Elvis, baby. Don't half-ass the King. 1939, the year Graceland was built. Elvis was 4 years old, 13.8 acres, the size of the Graceland estate when Elvis purchased it in 1957. 17,552 square feet, total size of the Graceland mansion today, and yesterday, and probably tomorrow. 23 rooms. Graceland has 23 rooms, including 8 bedrooms and 4 full bathrooms. 1982, the year Graceland opened to the public. Thank you, Priscilla. Over 650,000. The number of visitors to Graceland each year, making it one of the most visited homes in the United States. 365 days. Graceland is open to the public every day except Thanksgiving and Christmas. More than 20 million total number of visitors since Graceland opened to the public. Graceland was the first rock and roll site added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1991. Right across the street from Graceland sits Elvis Presley's Memphis exhibit complex. And y'all, it's big. I'm talking 200,000 square feet of wall-to-wall Elvis. Jumpsuits, Cadillacs, gold records, airplanes, movie posters, and more sequins than a Dolly Parton Christmas special. It's like they took everything Elvis ever touched, wore, drove, or sang, cranked it up to 11, and built a whole mini-city out of it. Then handed you a ticket and said, go get lost in it. Alright, so when you think Elvis, you probably picture the hair, the hips, and the high notes. But don't sleep on his garage game, y'all. The Elvis Presley Automotive Museum, also called the Elvis Car Museum, is a full-blown parade of chrome-covered Southern cool. This ain't no ordinary car collection. This is what happens when a country boy gets rich and decides every car needs fins, flare, and a telephone inside. Alright, picture this. It's 1955. Elvis is 20 years old, just hitting that rocket launch phase of his career. Greased up hair, hips shaking, girls screaming, the whole shebang. And what does he do with some of that newfound fame and cash? He goes out and buys a car so legendary, it might as well be the fourth horseman of rock and roll. A 1955 pink Cadillac Fleetwood Series 60. Now here's the kicker. He didn't buy it for himself. No, he gave it to his mama, Gladys, even though she didn't even drive. That's Southern mama love right there, y'all. Most folks might pick up a nice necklace or maybe a Sunday roast. Elvis handed his mama a bubble gum pink land yacht big enough to host a sock hop in. Thing was originally blue, but Elvis had it repainted that custom pink shade that would go on to be forever known as Elvis Pink. And when it comes rolling up now, it don't just purr, it hums gospel, country, and rockabilly all at once. It's a shrine on wheels. That car didn't just carry Elvis, it carried the dream. Poor Tupelo boy buying his mama a Cadillac. That's every Southern boy's version of making it. Heck, it might even be the most famous car in music history, and it never even cut a record. Fast forward to 1956, and Elvis is full-blown nuclear. So what does a rock star to do? He buys a royal purple Cadillac Eldorado that looks like Mardi Gras in motion. Fins like switchblades, chrome for days, and white leather seats made for getting lipstick on. That car didn't go down the road, it strutted. Enter the 1960 Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud. This one isn't showy, it is slick. Black paint, cream interior, and more class than a bourbon tasting at the governor's mansion. He used it in LA and Vegas, gliding into movie sets like he was Elvis, 00 Elvis. When the 70s roll in, he gets himself a Such Black Hawk, and oh buddy, this thing is the Elvis of cars. Jet black, gold trim, Italian body. He bought these things like they were moon pies. But the 73, this car was his baby. This was the last car he ever drove through the gates of Graceland, the night before he passed away. This car doesn't whisper, it growls. This is also the most expensive car Elvis ever bought, costing over $26,000 in 1973, which in today's money is enough to buy a house and a lot next door. The cheapest car Elvis ever bought? His first car, a beat-up 1941 Lincoln Zephyr he got for $50 and ditched on the side of the road when it died. Classic. $200 plus. The estimated number of cars Elvis bought for himself in his lifetime. 100 plus. The number of cars Elvis is believed to have given away, sometimes to complete strangers. 100 plus is also the number of Cadillacs Elvis owned throughout his lifetime. 40 is the number of Cadillacs Elvis purchased in just 1 year alone, 1975. 14. Elvis bought 14 Cadillacs in 1 day alone at Madison Cadillac in Memphis. 2. Elvis owned 2 Rolls Royces in his lifetime. Who was the first American to own a Such Black Hawk? Elvis, of course. And if you thought it stopped with cars, oh no. The man had motorcycles like most folks have socks. He started riding them as a teen, probably around 1954, just as he was hitting the charts. Harleys was his go-to, but he'd tried Triumphs, BMWs, even a Honda now and then. He had about 15 to 20 bikes over the years, but his favorite, that 1976 Harley FLH Electric Glide, only put 126 miles on it, but it sold after his death for nearly $800,000. That's not a bike, that's a monument. And then, oh mercy, the 1975 Super Trike, candy apple red, gold pinstriping, chrome everywhere, and a Corvair engine strapped to the back like it was fixing to launch into orbit. Elvis cruised around Graceland like a one-man parade float, flanked by the Memphis Mafia on Harleys. Cops just waved him through red lights, because again, who's going to stop Elvis on a rocket trike? Tractors had them, golf carts, plural, go-karts, boats, limos, dune buggies. If it had wheels and made noise, Elvis probably bought a dozen. That man didn't just ride, he arrived. Long live the king, and long live anything with an engine and enough chrome to blind a squirrel. Alright y'all, buckle up. Elvis Presley's career ain't just a story, it's a southern fried fever dream, dipped in glitter and gospel. So let's start at the beginning. Memphis, 1954. This skinny kid walks into Sun Records looking like a nervous greaser and sings like every jukebox in America just got baptized in the blues. Sam Phillips hears it and goes, "Yep, we just found the white boy who can sell black music to white kids." History gets made right there in that little studio with "That's Alright Mama," and suddenly the boy's off like a rocket strapped to a bottle of RC Cola. Then comes Colonel Tom Parker, the carny turned manager with a poker face and a circus brain. He sees Elvis and goes cha-ching, signs him, polishes him up, and launches him into full-on mainstream stardom. And just like that, the boy from Tupelo is on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1956, shaking like a Baptist at a honky-tonk, scandalizing the country with his hips that had entire church committees clutching their collective pearls. They had to film him from the waist up so the TV didn't burst into flames. Then boom, Hollywood comes calling. Colonel says, "Why tour when you can sit on your ass, make movies, and print money?" So Elvis cranks out a whole slew of flicks. Some good, some cheesier than a truck stop omelet, but folks loved him. He was on lunchboxes, in drive-ins, and selling records by the truckload. It was all sequence and soundtracks until 1958, when Uncle Sam came knocking. Drafted into the Army, Elvis trades jumpsuits for fatigues and winds up in Germany, where he meets a teenage girl named Priscilla, who will end up being the queen to his king. He gets out of the Army, but the world, it's changed. The Beatles are taking over. The hippies are rising. Elvis is stuck making movie musicals like Clambake. People start wondering if he's done for. But then, 1968, the comeback special hits NBC like a thunderclap. Dressed in black leather, sitting in a circle with his band, he looks mean, lean, and back from the dead. Folks, they lose their mind. Elvis is cool again. Then it's on to Vegas, where he reinvents himself once again, with big horns, high collars, and enough sparkle to blind a man. He sells out show after show, making Sin City his kingdom and basically inventing the whole concept of the Vegas residency. And then there's the Aloha from Hawaii special in 1973, broadcast live via satellite to 1 billion people, making him the first global rock and roll transmission. The man was basically internet famous before the internet even existed. Then, in 1977, he's gone, just like that, dead at 42, and the world has never quite recovered. But here's the thing, Elvis didn't just have a career, he rewrote the rules. He was the first real superstar. a poor kid from Tupelo who became the most famous human being on earth. From Sun Records to Graceland, Ed Sullivan to Vegas, black leather to white jumpsuits. He just didn't walk through history. He made it. Elvis Presley made 31 feature films, from Love Me Tender in 1956 to Change a Habit in 1969. That is a 13-year career as a leading man. Those films made from 200 to 300 million in box office sales during their original run. That is 1.5 to 2.5 billion today. Elvis was paid between $25 and $30 million in personal earnings from those films. 150 to 200 million tickets sold, and Elvis was the reason they were coming to the theaters. That's one global rock star turned box office goldmine. Elvis's influence on other musicians isn't just a ripple. It's a full-on tidal wave made of pomade, gospel swagger, and pelvic sorcery. The man didn't just change music, he cracked it open like a shotgun shell, and the shrapnel hit everybody. Soon as Elvis hit that mic at Sun Records, it was like the South rose again. But this time with a backbeat. Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry, all of them felt that, well, damn, we better turn it up a notch pressure. Elvis made it sexy, he made it dangerous, and suddenly every garage in America had a kid trying to grow sideburns and learn 3 chords. Now, Buddy Holly saw Elvis in Lubbock in 1955, and it blew his West Texas mind. Up to that point, he was strumming country tunes. Then Elvis swaggered in, hips swinging, and Buddy chucked the cowboy act for rock and roll. He even opened for Elvis a few times that year, and soaked up every move like a sponge in gravy. But Buddy didn't just copy, he transformed it. Big glasses, hiccup vocals, jangy guitar, he made rock safe for the weird kids. He wrote his own song, led his own band, and laid the blueprint the Beatles would follow. Elvis lit the fuse, but Buddy Holly made sure the fire kept burning. John Lennon flat out said, before Elvis, there was nothing, and he meant it. The Beatles straight up formed their band because they were obsessed with him. Mick Jagger is what would happen if Elvis took a trip to London, smoked a whole pack of unfiltered cigarettes, and started hanging out with art students. Elvis was the blueprint. Every mop top and skinny jean frontman from Liverpool to Leeds was trying to channel that Memphis mojo. John Lennon flat out worshipped Elvis, not the movie star version, but that raw, hip-shaking, Sun Records Elvis, who blew rock wide open. When Teenage John heard Heartbreak Hotel, it hit like a lightning strike. He grew his hair, picked up a guitar, and started chasing that same kind of cool. No Elvis, no Beatles. Simple as that. Yeah, Lennon may have griped about later Elvis being a sellout, but the fire never died. Early Elvis was the blueprint, and Lennon built a whole revolution on it. David Bowie, that glitter-loving space oddity, straight up called Elvis his hero. You ever wonder where that stage strut and velvet swagger came from? Mix Elvis with Ziggy Stardust, and boom, intergalactic pelvis power. Meanwhile, over in Texas, Willie, Waylon, and Merle, and the other outlaw country crew, they weren't trying to be Elvis, they were trying to rebel against Nashville the same way Elvis had rebelled against everything else. Hell, even Dolly said Elvis almost recorded I Will Always Love You, but he wanted the rights, and she said, no, respect. Freddie Mercury was all about Elvis. The man damn near worshipped him. Freddie didn't just like Elvis, he straight up tried to be Elvis sometimes. That swagger, that voice, that whole I'm sexy and dangerous and I know it vibe. Elvis laid the groundwork, and Freddie Mercury, he strutted right on down in a leather jumpsuit with a crown on his head. You ever heard Crazy Little Thing Called Love? That ain't just a Queen song. That's Freddie doing his best Elvis impersonation, right down to that deep southern drawl. Dude even recorded the vocals in one take, like, stand back y'all, I got this. And Queen used to bust out Jailhouse Rock on stage, just for fun, like it was karaoke night in heaven. So yeah, Freddie Mercury didn't just like Elvis, he channeled Elvis. The king passed the rhinestone torch and Freddie ran with it, and the rest is history. Prince was Elvis with a 6-string and a passport to Paisley Park. Both had the same, I'm sexy and you're just gonna have to deal with it energy. And every 80s rock band worth their Aquanet, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, the Stray Cats, all borrowed a little of that curled lip and rebel yell. The Boss loved Elvis, like church-level devotion. Bruce Springsteen saw Elvis Presley on TV as a kid, and boom, life changed. That hip-shaking Mississippi magic made Bruce pick up a guitar and never look back. In fact, he called the time he met Elvis the greatest moment of his life. And Bruce Springsteen even jumped the dang fence at Graceland trying to meet the king again, but didn't make it past the front door. But that says it all. Elvis lit the fire, Bruce just poured gas on it, and then went off to go dancing in the dark with Monica Geller. Dwight Yoakam is an Elvis fan, like it's baked in his DNA. That rockabilly strut, the slick hair, the tight jeans that look painted on, straight up King inspired. Dwight once said Elvis was the first to mix country and rock without making it sound like a mess, and that's pretty much Dwight's whole deal. He didn't just love Elvis, he damn near built a career on the same blueprint, just added a little honky-tonk twist and a little more twang. Britney Spears is an Elvis fan. How could she not be? She grew up in Louisiana, where loving Elvis is basically a birthright. That's southern sass, the stage swagger, the over-the-top outfits, straight out of the King's playbook. She even rocked a white jumpsuit for an Elvis tribute at the VMAs, full tilt, rhinestones and all. So yeah, Britney is pure pop royalty, but she damn sure bows to the king. Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong, he's an Elvis fan. Maybe not in the blue suede shoes kind of way, but he damn sure respects Elvis Presley. He grew up with Elvis playing in the background thanks to his parents, and even if he learned punk later, he knows what kicked the door open first. Elvis shook his hips and scared the hell out of the grown-ups. Billy Joe just turned that into power chords and eyeliner. So, no Elvis, no punk attitude, no Green Day. You better believe Post Malone's an Elvis fan. And not just in a, hey, cool jumpsuit kind of way. We're talking full-blown, sing it on stage, tattoo it on your knuckles kind of love. He covered Devil in Disguise at Graceland like he was born to do it, then turned around and cannonballed into Elvis's pool. And yeah, the man got a full portrait of the king inked on his fingers, right there with Johnny Cash and Kurt Cobain, like a Mount Rushmore of rock and roll rebellion. So, nah, Posty ain't just dabbling, he's keeping the king's memory alive, with face tats, cold beer, and a whole lot of swagger. And every kid who's ever stood in front of a mirror with a hairbrush microphone, that's Elvis, even if they don't know it yet. $2,000. That's the number of shows Elvis Presley performed live from 1954 to 1977. And he took years off from touring while he was making movies. 15 million plus. That is the estimated number of people who saw him perform live. 636. The number of live concerts performed during Elvis's 1970 Las Vegas residencies. Elvis Presley performed 6 concerts in one day in Seattle in 1957. 60 million plus. The number of viewers for his 1956 Ed Sullivan Show debut. 82.6 of all televisions in use was turned to Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley's iconic 68 comeback special, officially titled Singer Presents Elvis, aired on NBC on December 3rd, 1968, and was a phenomenal success. It captured a 42% Nielsen rating, meaning 42% of all United States television viewers were tuned in that night. This massive audience share translates into an estimated 50 million viewers. 1.5 billion. Estimated global audience for Aloha from Hawaii via satellite in 1973. Now, you ever see a man so famous he needed 2 airplanes just to get around? Welcome to Elvis Presley's travel situation in the mid-1970s, when commercial flights were for suckers and the king had better things to do, like fly to Denver in the middle of the night for a peanut butter and banana sandwich. First up, the Lisa Marie. This wasn't just a jet. It was Air Force One for rock and roll royalty. Elvis dropped $250,000 to buy it, then tossed in another $800,000 to pimp it out like a flying Graceland. I'm talking a full-on living room with wood paneling, a king-size bed so he didn't have to slump it in coach like the rest of us, and gold seat belts, actual gold. Even the bathroom had 24-karat fixtures, because when Elvis landed, he did it with moisture and magnificence. He named the plane after his daughter, Lisa Marie, because that's what a proud Southern daddy does. Took her flying, showed her the cockpit, probably let her push a button or two, not the important ones. These days, you can tour the Lisa Marie yourself, looking like it's still itching to take off for a Vegas run. You walk in, and it's like, yep, this checks out. But wait, there's more. Elvis had a backup jet too, because why the heck not? This one, it's called the Hound Dog 2, and while it ain't as flashy as the Lisa Marie, it still looks slick enough to make James Bond jealous. It's a Lockheed Jetstar, smaller and meaner, like the hot rod to the Cadillac. Leather seats, fold-out tables, wood paneling, kind of like your grandpa's den if your grandpa was an international rock star with a penchant for capes. Word is, Elvis used it for shorter trips or let his security ride in it while he stretched out in the Big Bird. Both jets sit side by side at Graceland now. Grounded? Sure, but still looking cooler than 90% of the cars on the road. And even though Hound Dog 2 didn't have the gold buckles, it still flew with some swagger. That's the thing about Elvis. Even his backup plane had a name and a story. When the king traveled, he didn't just fly, he arrived. Over the course of the 1950s, it's reasonable to estimate that Elvis Presley lagged between 60,000 and 100,000 miles behind the wheel during concert tours alone, likely placing the true figure around 80,000 miles. Public sources list hundreds of concerts between 1959 and 1958, often spanning multiple states in a single week. For example, in the 4-month period from January to April 1955, Elvis performed at 70 concerts, from Texas to Louisiana to Mississippi to Florida to Virginia. During Elvis Presley's movie career, he frequently traveled from Graceland to Hollywood on a bus, often with him driving most of the way, if not all of the way. That racks up to around 1,800 to 1,900 miles, depending upon your route. That's roughly 27 to 30 hours of drive time without stopping for fried chicken or gas station moon pies. Estimates suggest Elvis flew over 500,000 miles in the last decade of his life alone. 1 million. Elvis Presley is estimated to have traveled over 1 million miles during his lifetime. Most of it by plane, car, train, and tour bus between 1954 in 1977. To put that in perspective, that's about 40 trips around the Earth, or twice to the moon and back. Thank you for watching. If you're hungry for more of the strange and beautiful chaos that is the Gulf Coast, history, laughs, and all, check out our free podcast on Patreon. It's like a payday dough for your earbuds. And if you haven't hit that subscription button yet, now's the time. Don't overthink it, just do it. Until next time, folks, this is Gulf Coastal Connections. Stay curious, stay hungry, stay salty.